And just a note on this, in the coming days on this program, we will be speaking with the experts on the front lines, including law enforcement officials, about what they're seeing on the ground and what to do about it. But now what I want to do is put a human face on this. We can talk about the numbers, we can talk about the patterns, we can talk about who's involved, but at the end, families across this country have been ripped apart here by drugs like this and the addictions and sometimes the inevitable tragedies. And joining us in studio is Michael Zall. Michael is an attorney in Suffern. And Michael's son, Jeremy, he died from a drug overdose just this past December. And you're speaking out here because you don't want other families to go through your pain.
Well, I think you've emphasized it very nicely. It's a tremendous problem. And I really don't think the public understands how many kids are dying every day from my research, brief research, and you've done more. There's more children getting, and I call them children, they're adults also, dying every day from prescription drugs, heroin, and then we lost in Vietnam. I think there's something like 40,000 kids dying every year from prescription drugs, heroin, and we've got to do something about it. We've spent a lot of money, for example, on AIDS and curing that. We've got to do the same thing with this situation.
Put a human face on your son, because in many ways, kid growing up, I mean, you're from Rockland County. This is not, you know, where people would say, oh, pick the hardest hardscrabble inner city in America. This was your boy. This could be anybody's kid.
He grew up in the suburbs. We lived in the same house for over 40 years. He played baseball, played soccer, was doing fine up until probably high school. And as a parent, you really don't even know what's happening. You think there's something wrong, but you're really not faced with what's happening until it hits you in the face. As a lawyer, I say, until it's beyond a reasonable doubt. You always think that, well, he's not feeling good. He grew up in the suburbs. Like, he went to a wonderful high school, a wonderful college, and somehow just got addicted in his high school years and just couldn't kick it. We went through years, literally probably 20 years of rehab, doctors, and his last bout, he was in Delray Beach, which is sort of like the epicenter of rehab. Seemed to be doing very well. He was down there for a year and a half or so going through rehab. He came home, seemed fine. We went away on vacation, and then we get a call while we're on vacation. And you never know how you're going to react when that happens. We were always afraid that someday we might get the call, but we said, no, it's not going to happen to us. But all of a sudden it does, and the bottom drops out, the complete bottom drops out. You don't know. I think my wife and I have handled it better than I thought we could, but it's a dramatic. And Mr. Hoffman, when he died, I got hit with that just like my son died, because here's a person who's a wonderful talent, doesn't seem to have a problem, and then all of a sudden, bang, he gets hit with it. And hopefully it'll wake people up as to what a tremendous problem this is. I think we have to learn to educate the kids. I don't think there is, in my opinion, there is no cure for addiction. If you're addicted, you're going to go through rehab.
And you want people, and I've heard other families who've, and it's not a small struggle. This is, as you said, a decade-long struggle, and it tears at the family. But it's an illness, right? And that's how it should be looked at?
Absolutely. It's an illness. I've seen some comments on the internet that, well, he chose to do it, but that's not the case. He doesn't choose to do it. Mr. Hoffman didn't choose to pick up the needle and everything like that. He was addicted to it. And the same thing with my son. He wanted to be clean, and he just couldn't.
There's a family out there watching tonight who's got a kid, let's say, in high school, who they're not sure if it's kids being kids or something more. What do you say to them?
I say, if you suspect there's a problem, there is a problem. don't wait until it's too late. And you have to nip it very, very quickly in the beginning, because once they're addicted onto prescription drugs or heroin or whatever drugs are out there, it's a terrible route. I don't think there is a cure. And eventually it could end up deadly. So you really got to hit it very quickly, early years. I know I had my grandson watching television with me, and there was this advertisement for cigarette smoking with someone lying in bed and disgusting. And he says to me, "Dad, Grandpa, I'll never smoke. That's crazy." Why don't they do that with drugs? All they have is a very mild ad saying, "Don't do drugs." You got to show them dragging out a body bag, and you got to see the parents crying, and my grandkids upset about that. It's just not publicized enough to prevent the disease from occurring. Once it occurs, we've got all these routes to supposedly a cure, but they're Band-Aids on the situation. What an addict needs is 3-4 years of medical treatment, not 30 days and you're out, and or maybe you go to a halfway house or something like that.
In the case of Hoffman, it was 10 days.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard that for families, the addict has to go through obviously all the stages here until hopefully there's recovery, but the family suffers with them. Was that the case with you guys too?
Absolutely. My wife, every night there was nightmares that he would die, and or get in trouble, or be arrested, or whatever happens to addicts, and that for 20 years we suffered for that. And not only the financial impact that it has on you, you're constantly paying for doctors that are not covered by the medical system. You're traveling to see him in some rehab. He's at the rehab, and then he's constantly bothering you for money because he needs to live, and because he can't hold a job or something like that. And I'm not necessarily talking about my son specifically. I'm saying in general, that's the route. And then there's the thefts that occur. You know, how many addicts wind up stealing from their parents, from their relatives, and getting in trouble, you know. And my son was a good addict, if you want to call it that. He didn't get in any really major trouble that I know of with the police or anything like that. But it's a tremendous toll, you know. And when it finally occurs that he dies, that's a tremendous impact on you. And not only affect me, it affects my whole family, my wife, my grandkids, his sister. They were tremendously impacted by this.
Well, I know, Michael, you don't want the loss of Jeremy, you don't want other families to go through that same pain, and I know you're speaking out, and one of the things is to get parents, if they suspect, to do something, and to try and get as coherent as we can here, both regionally, nationally, hopefully, an education campaign to reach out to the kids before it's too late. And as the numbers suggest here, this is a problem that if you thought was of the 70s and 80s, you got to look at the data. It is unbelievable, the spike here in usage that is going on, as I said, not just in the toughest areas, but in the suburbs and even in the rural areas as well. And we've put up a toll-free hotline right now for you, and we're going to be coming back to this issue a lot more. This is for the heroin helpline, but it's not just relegated to this drug. This is 866-643-6144, and there's qualified professionals there to help you as to the next steps. But obviously the first step you have to take is to pick up that phone. Michael, I really appreciate it, and this is the beginning of hopefully a lot of attention we're going to put on a subject that I know is impacting so many families.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, when we come back, we will switch gears. There is more development in New Jersey as the governor is facing additional questions after a defiant denial yesterday on radio. We're going to talk more about that with our guest from the Bergen Record.